right, we are going to run down the new top 25 of this college football season. Week 4. We did have some changes. Some very interesting games out there. Fun games this past weekend. And then we'll just go through, ranking order here. Texas didn't really have much of a challenge against UNLV. ULM, my mistake, ULM. But Arch Manning did get to start his first career start. Some pretty cool X posts or social media posts, between him and his uncles, and even showing some of the stats from his grandfather, Peyton, Eli, and then Arch. Comparing their first starts. Kind of interesting, kind of fun. That's cool. Family humor. I don't know if we've seen 3 generations like that play sports at that high of a level before. So it's gonna be pretty cool to see what he does going on. But yeah, he's not ready to take over though. I've kind of mentioned this before. He's just inexperienced. He just needs that experience though. So getting him to play in this stretch is one reason why I put out the video last week. I don't think Quinn Ewers is really hurt. It's just the best stretch to get Arch Manning playing time because Quinn Ewers doesn't have anything to prove against ULM, Mississippi State, even UTSA last week. So it was a good stretch. Nothing really to say about Texas, honestly, outside of Arch Manning getting his first start. Georgia, bye week. Okay, moving on. Ohio State, I think they also had a bye week. I'm not totally sure. No, they did not have an official bye week, but they kind of had a pseudo bye week. They played Marshall, won 49-10. Had no interest to watch this game. Obviously, I didn't realize they were playing this weekend. They were off last weekend is what it was. But yeah, Ohio State rolled. Not a big deal. Alabama bye week. And Alabama, Georgia are going to be playing together this next Saturday, this coming weekend. That is going to be the game to watch. Game day, I think. They were advertising before Saturday was even done that's where they're going to be next week, and kind of made sense, right? Both those teams are off, not really having to worry about neither of those teams getting knocked off. So it's like, yeah, we're gonna go to Alabama. So it's gonna be a great game. Hopefully it's a great game. Tennessee goes into Norman, beats Oklahoma. Talked about Oklahoma later on when we get down there. Tennessee finally played an opponent that wasn't just absolute nobodies. And I would say they didn't look dominant. I'm not going to say they looked like they were getting manhandled. That front, I don't know if the front for them or their defensive front for Tennessee or the offensive front for Oklahoma. One of those is either really good, either Tennessee's is really good, or Oklahoma's offensive front is really bad. Anyways, Tennessee did what they needed to do. I think this was more of the defense crushed Oklahoma. I think that's, to me, kind of what I was more impressed with was their defense. Ole Miss, nothing to really say here. I mean, they didn't do anything to drop, even though they did drop in the rankings. It was more of just Tennessee beat Oklahoma. That's it. That's the only reason why they kind of swapped. Ole Miss, they're finally going to be starting to play people as they get into the SEC schedule. So we'll see what their schedule is going to be all about. Miami, they don't really have much kind of in their way right now. They crushed South Florida. They don't really have anybody until Louisville. I'm not really interested in any of these games. I'm interested in seeing what Louisville and Miami are going to be about, because that game probably is going to determine who wins the ACC, or they might just be replaying in the ACC championship game. So that's probably going to be the game for the ACC right there. Is Miami and Louisville. Oregon, just looked at the schedule. Oregon was off, so there you go. They just benefited from Missouri dropping. Penn State So Penn State played Kent State. Didn't even know that they played, but you played a bunch of scrubs. So who cares? You don't learn anything about teams when you played nobodies. Utah. We did learn something about Utah. Okay, so they went in and they beat Oklahoma State in Stillwater. Pretty impressive. Kind of came down to the end of the game there a little bit. Utah had a little bit more control early on, but still kind of was close there at the end. Wasn't able to watch too much of this. I know Cam Rising didn't play, so that's probably the more impressive thing is that they were able to get that win, even though Cam Rising didn't start. So that's good because that's where Utah past, like, especially last year, like Cam Rising didn't play, like they weren't good. So yeah, Utah's maybe they got themselves a decent backup. So yeah, Utah looking pretty good off of that win. That's a big time get. Missouri, man, Missouri. That's a tough one because you don't know what to think of Vandy. And Vandy, I get it, man. People want to knock them for, maybe almost getting knocked off by Vandy. If they would have got knocked off by Vandy, obviously that would have been a huge, huge problem for Missouri. But they went to overtime with Vandy, and people have that legacy mindset of you're Vandy, you're nobody, you're just supposed to lose. You're Alabama, you're somebody, you're just supposed to win. And you know what? Sometimes, maybe 1 year or two every now and then, a team comes up out of nowhere and has a really good season. So maybe that's Vandy this year. Anyways, Missouri dropping a little bit from eking out a game there with Vandy. Michigan, and really Missouri had plenty of chances to lose that game, honestly. Vandy lost that game. Missouri, and that's probably one reason why they did wind up dropping so much. Vandy lost that game. Missouri did not win that game. Michigan. All right. We can talk about Michigan USC back-to-back, actually, since they just played each other. So this game, obviously, was a pretty prime watch this weekend. Michigan was not that good. They have finally gone to the offense I thought they would have after Texas beat the crap out of them because they don't have a quarterback. That was evident even when you watch USC. They threw the ball, I think, 7 times. I think they just had 7 pass attempts that whole game. That tells you what they think of their throwing situation. It is that bad. It is not good. But they just turned around, handed the ball off, or they did some option stuff, some QB sprint off to the side. Yeah, it was just a lot of that. It was just kind of like a triple option offense, honestly, all game for Michigan. But they finally did what I kind of thought they would have been doing after Texas, was just hand the ball off, just run the ball, tell your offensive line, just push forward. We'll get it. It was actually kind of impressive to see them even do that against USC. I thought they were pretty successful. I think USC's defense is in the first half, especially coming out. I have no idea what the hell they were doing. Like, what were you doing? Like, why were you? It seemed like they weren't taking the run game seriously, and I was like, that's the only thing you should have been taking seriously about Michigan is like make any quarterback, whoever's going to start. I know Orgy got the start, but it was like make the quarterbacks prove it to you that they can go out there and get that dub. There was no reason to say, hey, okay, we got to defend the pass until they prove that they can throw the ball and you need to defend the pass. There was no reason. So Michigan was able to get up on that early, and but once USC kind of figured that out, Michigan didn't do anything for much of the game until like that last drive of the game that Michigan had to get the lead back right there at the end. So I was still probably a little bit more impressed with USC because they probably just lost that game. It was a bad defensive scheme to start the game, and then the turnovers. Man, the turnovers in that game they were bad. Man, they were just so bad. QB trying to make plays he just didn't need to make. LSU. Who did y'all play? UCLA. I knew it was a big Big Ten team. I want to say Pac-12 team, but Big Ten team. They were UCLA, but you know, LSU. Yeah, I mean, you should have handled them. They're out of your league. So there you go. Louisville, like I mentioned, you're probably just playing absolute nobodies until you get to that Miami game. Yeah, you're gonna get SMU, Virginia. You're gonna get Miami and then Clemson. So Miami, I don't even think Miami played Clemson. So there you go. Yeah, when you get to those games, that's going to determine your season. So if you get by Miami, you're sitting real good, no matter the outcome of Clemson. But obviously, if you lose to Miami, you're going to need that W over Clemson, as long as you win out all the other games. Notre Dame. Oh yeah, Notre Dame beat down Miami of Ohio. I totally forgot Louisville also playing Louisville this. Notre Dame's playing Louisville this weekend. That's going to be a pretty good one. Obviously, that's going to be Louisville's first real test. I'll probably watch that as much as I can. Hopefully, that should be the first game of the day. So that will not be the first game of the day. It'll be the second slot. So kind of looking forward to that. All right, I'll be checking that game out. Anyways, mostly because I want to see if Louisville's good or not. Notre Dame's not good. So Louisville, y'all should be able to handle Notre Dame. I have no confidence in Notre Dame. Clemson, I don't know, were they off? So Clemson did play. They just played nobodies that beat them down. Iowa State also did play. They played nobody. They just kind of beat them down. Actually, Iowa State played Arkansas State, who Michigan struggled against the week before. So Iowa State just kind of pounded them. So I'll be curious to see if Iowa State and Michigan play each other. See how that goes down. Illinois got a big win against Nebraska. I remember that one. I think that was the Friday night game, I believe. So, yeah, Friday night game. So yeah, that was an interesting game. Dylan Raiola, the quarterback for Nebraska, I'll quickly hit on Nebraska, but they are heading in the right direction. I know they're not going to be ranked this week because of that loss, but they're heading in the right direction. Probably not going to compete for obviously the 12-team playoff this year, but I think they're going to be knocking on that door maybe next year. They continue to develop. Dylan Raiola had some bright spots, but he also had some young quarterback spots. Illinois is getting that W. Illinois played a pretty clean game. I was actually really impressed with Illinois. Is it Brett Bielema that's the head coach there? That used to be head coach at Wisconsin and Arkansas, I believe. Anyways, I think that's the coach, if I remember correctly. I might be a little mistaken on that, but anyways, big fan of his. I was actually kind of surprised he even left Wisconsin years ago. Dude, he's got it going in the right direction, man. They played a clean game. That's probably what I was most impressed with about Illinois, though. Oklahoma State obviously getting that loss against Utah at home. Didn't look great. The interesting one is actually just below them, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, Oklahoma, man. So I get it. You put in quarterback 2 and he scrambles. But scrambling quarterback is really good when you have no offensive line. Your offensive line sucked. Okay? If you want to say, our QB2 is better than our QB1, we need to go with him. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because it wasn't like QB2 was sitting back there throwing the ball. He was having to scramble and throw, and maybe he's just a better scrambler. So I mean, I don't know, man. Your offensive line to me was awful. It's either that or Tennessee's defensive line is just really good. But man, your offensive line was getting Swiss cheesed all night, all game. That was bad. BYU, but your defense is good. Your defenses look solid. You're finally getting back to a few years ago before Lincoln Riley took over. Getting back to that era of defense. So that's good. Okay, BYU. If I remember correctly, I believe y'all played yeah, Kansas State, dude. This game, Kansas State. What happened? Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised BYU's only ranked one slot above them, which is so weird to me how they do these rankings. They're just so garbage. Because Kansas State was ranked up here like 12 or 13 last week. When you spots you? Yeah, so they're like 13 last week. So BYU should be up a little bit higher. If you like straight dogged on Kansas State that hard, but Kansas State just could not get out of their own way to start the game. And this is coming after I praised Kansas State and Avery Johnson, their quarterback, last week because he looked good the previous week. But dude, like there was some like the game early on, it was fine, it was close, but then all of a sudden, I forget what it was. There was a couple of like turn. It was like right before half. BYU gets 14 points in the span of like a minute or two. And it was like turnovers, really dumb plays, and it was just a disaster after that. Just a disaster. Anyways, BYU just kind of lucked out, got the momentum right there, kind of carried into the second half, and there you go. Texas A&M should not be ranked. That is a garbage team, unless they continue to start their the black quarterback. Man, what is his name? I want to give that dude some kudos. Marcel Reed. Now, they did not dominate their game. I know that. Bowling Green, yeah, they did not dominate that game, which is why I don't know why they're ranked. I have no idea how they move up, man. You barely beat Bowling Green, but they did. I think Marcel Reed is probably just going to continue to be the starter going forward. Anyways, Boise State, welcome to the top 25. See if you do anything. And by the way, this might be the best contention going forward for the 12th spot in the 12-team playoff. I know up until a couple days ago, people would have said UNLV, but here over the past day, at least in this week, the UNLV quarterback has said he's going to take a red shirt. This guy, Matthew Sluka, is going to leave the UNLV Rebels. He said, basically, there was an article over here. There was a verbal offer from an assistant coach for $100,000. So while UNLV is probably in that spot right now, for formality reasons, probably won't be like that at the end of the season because how deep is UNLV really at quarterback? Probably not very. Okay, so if we fill out the 12-team bracket and the seeding, Texas at 1 stays the same. Ohio State at 2 staying the same. Miami at 3 still staying the same. Utah, I think, solidified their spot in number 4 a little bit better this week with that win over Oklahoma State. That was a good win. That was a good get for them. Georgia, right now, sitting at 5, and we just do this in order of the top 25. We're not going to worry about who's going to win what game or whatever. Alabama still at 6. Here's where it's going to get a little interesting, where we saw a little swapping around. Tennessee, 7. Ole Miss, 8. Okay, so those two swapped, which is really kind of funny because Oregon's 9. Penn State is 10. So it's kind of interesting. Oregon and Ole Miss were actually lined up at 7 and 10, but since Tennessee, Ole Miss swapped, Oregon, Penn State, they moved up because Missouri moved down. So Oregon, Ole Miss are still lined up together, just in a different spot in the bracket. It's just kind of funny how that happened. And then you got Missouri, luckily staying alive after that narrow win. And then you got UNLV for now in the 12th team playoff. Probably won't be like that going forward. Probably, formalities going forward, probably be Boise State. But, geez, that NIL situation is absolutely crazy, man. Anyways, that is the look of the current look at the 12-team playoff. We'll update it next week. Obviously, we will have some kind of movement between Georgia and Alabama playing each other. Those teams will definitely move. UNLV will probably not be there either. And then we'll probably have a lot of people be shifting up from, a loss between Georgia and Alabama. If it's really close, one of those teams might not even drop that much. If Alabama squeaks out a field goal right there at the end, maybe Alabama and Georgia to kind of swap. Be curious to see if that happens. Anyways, we'll see what happens next week.